Well, I can start again.
Okay, I'm recording again. This is part 2 of the simple interest compound interest comparison. And just to remind you of what we've just done in part 1, we've set up a spreadsheet in our calculator and we have put in a formula to get the calculator to calculate 8% of $1,000 to show the simple interest.
Yeah.
Great.
Right, okay. So, now that I know that every year I'm getting $80 on interest on my account, how can I work out the balance of my account at the end of that first year? What am I doing to get that new balance?
So my balance should be my initial $1,000
Yep.
plus the interest that I earned. So $1,000 plus 80.
Okay, so I could put in 1,000 plus 80 in and sort of, do that over and over again. Or I could actually, again, set up a formula to do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, using the equal sign tells the calculator to do it.
Yeah.
I want to add on the number that's my original balance. Now that's in cell B1. I'm going to add to that the amount of interest that I earned on my account, which is in cell C1. So my formula is equal to B1 plus C1, and when I hit enter, you can see that it's just added those two numbers together.
Huh.
So I could have just gone, equals 1,000 plus 80, and that would have done the same thing. But because I'm doing it over a period of 20 years, you can see I get pretty tired and bored of doing that. So good to learn how to use some of the features of our calculator, because now that I've put a formula in, I can actually use my fill thing again. So menu, data, fill. And again, you can see that dotted line coming in. If I just do it a couple of times, you can see I've now been added. So it's adding on each time.
So
it's adding on to the previous balance. It's adding on the next $80.
So they're going up, B4 and C4.
Yes.
So they go up a bit one each time. Automatically it does that.
So it's actually, because what the formula is saying is go to the previous year and add on the interest from the previous year to that previous balance.
Cool.
So if I'm in year 4, the previous year that information was in cell B4 and the interest that I earned was in cell C4, that's why it's adding that together.
Cool.
Alright, so enough of that chat. We'll continue to fill down to cell B21, which is the end of our 20th year, and you can see that after 20 years my balance has increased quite nicely and I've now got $2,600 in the account. Awesome.
I want to put my money in that.
What I started with.
I want to put my money in that bank account.
I like that bank account. It's awesome, isn't it? Okay. However, our learning intention was to compare simple interest and compound interest. So let's go back up to column D into cell D1. And now let's put our $1,000 into a compound interest account. So I start off with my $1,000. Again, I'm going to just play around with the idea that I'm getting 8% for interest, because 8 is one of my favourite numbers. It's got 2 circles in it for the start. So again, I'm going to calculate 8% of that $1,000. So I'm going to use my equals, and I'm going to use the 8 over 100 thing. Remember, you can put a fraction in by going control divide, and that changes that 8 into 8 over 100. Okay. Move my cursor over so that it's flashing next to the horizontal line, otherwise known as a pendulum. And I'm going to multiply by my $1,000 that I started with.
Cool.
That $1,000 that I started with, what cell is that in?
D1.
In D1. So I'm going to multiply that by D1. Because remember, I'm trying to set up a formula, and this time, because I'm using compound interest, it's actually calculating on the previous balance. I hit enter, and lo and behold, I get $80 again.
Right, okay.
Okay, alright. I'm going to fill, so I set up this formula. You can see the formula here in here in this little formula bar here, you can see the formula.
Yeah.
Okay, 8 over 100 times D1. So I'm going to fill that formula down using my menu, data, fill, business again. Go down to cell E21 and hit enter. And you're all expecting something special to happen, aren't you? So look what happens. Oh, we just get a whole lot of little lines. lines.
That's not very exciting.
Now the reason we get that little line is because this cell in E3, this number in E3 is being calculated by using the value that's in D3. But there isn't anything in D3 yet.
Right.
So that's why it's just coming into blank. Do not panic. It will become better.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do is now work out how to calculate what should go into that particular cell. So this is my compound interest balance. How am I going to get that compound interest balance, do you reckon?
Why not just add the $1,000 and the $80?
Okay, good idea. So the $1,000 is what's currently in my bank.
And that's in D1.
And that's in D1. So I'm going to go equals D1. And I'm adding on my interest, which is in cell
E1.
E1. Notice what happens as soon as I hit enter. A number appears instead of there being that line.
It's a weird number. It's a
That is
fraction.
weird number.
I don't
It's
like
actually a
fractions.
fraction. You don't like that?
No.
Okay. So let's change the settings on our calculator. Go to your, so this is something you need to be able to do fairly fluently. If you see something like that, like this fraction doobie here, if you don't like it, go to your home button. Remember that's the one that looks like it's got a little house on it, and you'll come up with a screen, this particular screen, your home screen. We're going to go down to settings. Now your calculator may or may not look the same as this, you might be slightly different. We're going to go to document settings, and you come up with a screen that looks roughly like this. You might have variation on what it's called document setting. What was it on yours, Michelle?
Mine just said settings.
Right, okay.
And yeah, it was just slightly different, but I got the same page.
So I'm going to tab, so notice I'm just tabbing down. So I'm using the tab button to tab
there we go.
around, or I can use the up button or the down button. Till I get to the calculation mode. At the moment it says auto. So I click on the side arrow and it brings down this drop down menu. I'm changing my auto to approximate. Okay? So tab to OK. I'll just use my tab button, tab to OK. Hit enter. And
is that a permanent change? So at the end of today's class, should I change that back?
It will only apply to this document.
Oh, okay.
Right? So go back to my current document. And you'll notice now that number is now changed to 86.4, which you will recognise as being $86.40.
Yep.
Alright. Okay, so let's see what happens. We're going to fill down the column, the D column. Fill it down. And after I've done a couple, as you can see, as soon as I start doing that, it starts filling in all the blanks.
I like that it ended up on 1999.
Yeah. So
my favourite song.
You fill down to D21, and when you do that, all of the cells fill up.
Cool.
Right? So, what have we got here? This is our interest. Notice that our compound interest is changing all the time, whereas our simple interest does not change. Okay?
Cool.
Whoa. Balance. There's our compound interest balance.
That's so much
There's
more.
our simple interest balance after 20 years.
I changed my mind. I want to put my money in a compound interest
So
account.
you reckon you put it in compound interest now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can sort of bring that with you. Now, setting up a list of spreadsheet is one way to do it. It's not the most efficient way of doing it. I did it this way because I wanted to show you the difference between compound and simple interest. And so I wanted to do it using real values. But some of you may remember a calculation defines compound and simple interest. So
I wrote it down. Can I just...
Stick in a new calculator page. Control I will insert a new page, and we're using the calculator page.
Okay.
Vishnu, what's the formula for simple
I wrote it down in my book. Hang on.
Well, just read it out to me.
Okay, so simple interest was I equals P times R times T over 100. And if I remember correctly, I is the interest,
Yep.
P was the principal amount,
Yep.
R is the rate, so that would be 8 for what we just did. T was the number of years, or the number of, yeah, the time period.
And why do we divide by 100, do you think?
To make, because it's a percentage. So R has to be divided by 100, because 8 has to be divided by 100.
So let's have a look at what happens if we start off with our principal of $1,000. Right? I multiply it by my rate of 8%. I multiply it by my time, which was
20 years.
20 years. Remember, control divide turns that into a slightly easier way of calculating, and I divide that by 100. Now, when I hit enter, it is likely that that's going to come up as a fraction, and in fact it doesn't.
Yay!
It goes up to $1,600.
Awesome.
Alright. But if we go back to our table, my balance at the end of 20 years is not $1,600, it's $2,600. Why?
Because I've got to add on what I started with, the 1,000.
Yeah. So in simple interest, the formula only calculates the amount of interest. To get the accumulated amount, you have to take that amount of interest and add on your initial principal.
Okay.
So in our table, that $2,600 was our accumulated amount. So just to prove that our table is correct, I'm going to take my initial $1,000, my principal, add on the interest that I've just calculated. Remember in your calculator, whenever you're using a prior calculated value, you can just use your up arrow to highlight it and then press enter.
Oh, cool.
So at this stage you're having to type it in again and maybe making a transcription error or rounding it off inappropriately. Okay, so there's my $1,600 added together, there's my $2,600. So that agrees quite nicely with what I've got in my table. At the end of 20 years, simply just balance $2,600.
Okay.
Okay, let's now refresh our memories about the calculation for compound interest. So this is
Okay, so compound interest was A equals P, open bracket, 1 plus R all over 100, close bracket, to the power of N.
Okay, so what's P again?
That's my principal amount, so 1,000.
What's the R?
R is the interest rate, so 8.
Okay, and what does N represent?
N's the years? No, it's not always years. It's the number of times interest is calculated.
So
The number of
times,
periods is calculated.
Over the whole deal. So this was a nice simple one because my 8% per annum, per annum is per year, was, excuse me,